Hi everyone, Nicole Bowman here, and welcome to Live the Light. If you're brand new to the channel, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe because that helps the channel to grow and build. Um, if you are a returning listener or subscriber, thank you for the support, the likes, the shares, and just anyone who is listening today, anyone who is moved to share this video, thank you. Thank you so much. So we're going to move into a continuation of videos that I'll be doing on the Democratic candidates who are running for president. And to be clear, I'm not going to be doing spiritual readings on all of the candidates. I'm only doing readings on the candidates who stand out to me energetically or who spirit has pointed to where their energy feels like they may very well be president of the United States. So it's only going to be those who stand out energetically or it feels like they have the potential to be president. So today, the Democratic candidate that I'm tapping into is Mayor Pete Buttigieg of South Bend, Indiana. When I connect in, full disclosure, initially of all the candidates, for me personally, he was the one that stood out the most to me. Not spiritually necessarily, but just more on a personal level, because he was younger, he had a fresh energy. So there were things about him that I really liked, and I decided, I'm going to watch him closer and we'll see how he does. But what I want to do in this particular spiritual reading is I'm kind of going to put my personal feelings and opinions to the side and just allow spirit to flow and look at the bigger picture of things. Because oftentimes we have our personal opinion of how someone's going to do, but then there's the reality, of the path that they need to take and the role they play in this election. So that's what we're actually going to be looking at. So as I connect and tap into Mayor Pete, um, who is the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, he is one of the younger, if not the youngest candidate who is running. I do get a very good feeling about him in terms of his sincerity, his level of intelligence, and his willingness to learn and to lead. So this is a good thing. But what Spirit is definitely telling me is that there is a lot going on in South Bend, Indiana right now that he really needs to focus on very clearly and very strategically, and he needs to get some things done. If you haven't been watching the news a lot, you may not be familiar with the fact that there's a lot of racial tension in South Bend, Indiana. And when Mayor Pete came into office, in many respects, he inherited that. There is some racial tension between the police force there and the black residents there. And there's been a lot of criticism towards Mayor Pete concerning how he's handled that leadership and people wanting him to be transparent and really calling out racism and seeing what we can do to end police brutality, to end that racial discrimination, and really to heal as a community. So that's a really big challenge for him where he's going to have to face the truth, he's going to have to face the music, and he's going to have to stand up. Now, what Spirit is actually saying, though, is that if he follows through and does what is right, it's a massive opportunity for a spiritual awakening in South Bend. And that spiritual awakening can start a chain reaction across the country. So, Mayor Pete being young, being gay, serving in the military, really having desire to do public service, Spirit is saying in a lot of respects, he's being placed at the epicenter of this because it also gives him an opportunity to learn and grow. When I connect and tap into him psychically, I see that he's incredibly intelligent. The vast majority of the time, he is the smartest person in the room, and Spirit is actually saying that is his hubris because there is that intellectual intelligence, but there's also emotional intelligence, there's spiritual intelligence, there's intelligence on many different levels. And so, one of the things and one of the challenges for him while he's governing in South Bend is he's going to have to learn how to listen to people from all different backgrounds. There are going to be people that on an intellectual level may not be able to match him, but they have the life experience. They have seen South Bend grow and shift and change, and they need to be people that are speaking to him as well. What Spirit makes me feel, the major issue going on right now is that for a long time, Mayor Pete has been listening to sort of a panel of experts. But the challenge is these panel of experts in the community, they don't have boots on the ground, meaning that they're not as deeply connected or embedded or enmeshed in the communities as the other citizens are. So what you have is almost like a panel of experts that are sort of sitting on a pedestal telling Mayor Pete and advising him on what should should and should not be done, and this is the way you've always done it, and there is no change. What he really needs to do is to go out into the community, Spirit is saying. He needs to go out into those black communities, talk to the older women, talk to the older men. He needs to go out into those communities and talk to people who may not have his level of education, but they have an intelligence, they have a grace, they have a strength of their own. And he needs to understand that, because oftentimes, because he is the smartest person in the room, he sometimes will think, well, I know the way, well, I can figure it out. But this is not something that Mayor Pete can do alone. It is a team effort, and it requires honesty, it requires openness, it requires transparency, and it really requires confronting racism, and it requires him admitting that he has made some poor choices in terms of people that he's appointed, people he's hired, people he's fired, and also that he hasn't been listening to his community. He hasn't been listening to the everyday man or woman who lives in these communities where there is police brutality. He hasn't asked them head on, what do you need? What do you want to feel safe? He's been listening to a panel of experts, and as a result of that, nothing is getting done. So he does have an opportunity to turn it around. And what I see with Mayor Pete, and the reason why I was saying on a spiritual level, and just on a personal level, when I connect and tap into him, there is something about him that I like. There is a part of me, when I look at him psychically, that is hopeful for what he can become. But in order to do that, he has to humble himself and he has to listen. I do see he has a deep sincerity, though, to make a difference. There are some other Democratic candidates who are running. I don't feel that from everyone. There are some people who are running just for the sake of their pride and their ego. I don't feel that with Mayor Pete. But what I do see with him is that he is very green and he is very young. And while he does have some wonderful ideas and things that he's going to do, he actually does have a pretty strong base behind him. People are really enthused and excited to get to know him, and enthused and excited to see what he does in politics. And I do sense he can go far. He has to understand that intellectual intelligence is one form of intelligence. There is emotional intelligence, there's spiritual intelligence. There are many layers to what makes a whole person. And if we only value one layer, and if we only value one aspect, then what happens is things never change and never grow, because we're only looking at it through one lens. So there is an opportunity for a spiritual awakening in South Bend. There is an opportunity to dismantle structural racism in South Bend that is happening. And Mayor Pete can be on the side of dismantling that, or he can go to the other side and be on the side of maintaining that. And right now he is at a war, in a war with himself. At his core, I see he is a good person, but I also see and feel that he has some blind spots and blinders. And sometimes he has difficulty listening to people who are not quote unquote experts. So he is going to have to humble himself. He's going to have to open his ears, his eyes, his heart, and he's going to have to listen more. Now, when I look at him psychically, I do sense and feel that there's a potential for a long career in politics for him. And while right now he is working on the local level, I actually get a strong sense and impression that he will and can move to the federal level later on. Spirit is actually showing him potentially walking through the halls of Capitol Hill. So I do get the sense and impression that this is just a starting point for him in a way. He's going to take off and he's going to do other things. But the guidance the Spirit is giving me, repeat right away, is never forget where you came from. Never forget that you were that little boy and you didn't feel like you fit in. Never forget that there are people in your community, specifically a lot of Black citizens in your community, that feel like they're not being counted, that feel that they're not being listened to. And Spirit is basically saying you've got to reach out your hand, you've got to listen to people who are being victimized, and let them tell you what they need in their communities to change it. Not the experts that don't live there, but the people who live there day in and day out. You got to go to, those grandmothers and grandfathers who sit on their porch, that go to church every Sunday, that know everybody's name, that check up on the family members, because those are the people that are going to tell you what the communities need. You need to talk to the young activists who have the fire in their belly. They want to go to college, that are trying to get their PhD, that are trying to come back into the communities and change it and shift it. So there has to be a variety. And a lot of times, the way that we learn and grow is we learn by listening to people who maybe look different than us, sound different than us, have a different educational or intelligence level than us, but everybody is intelligent, gifted, and special in their own right, and everyone deserves a seat at the table because we're all one America. We are all one people. So that is the message the Spirit is trying to drive home to Mayor Pete. I sincerely hope that he listens. I sincerely hope that his pride, and a little bit of his arrogance and hubris, like that doesn't get in the way of him being able to have an effective change, because he really could make a huge difference, and that's part of why Spirit has placed him there. So this is an amazing opportunity for growth to really turn not only South Bend around, but the United States of America around too at large. So we will see how Mayor Pete does. I'm probably going to be watching the debates. Right now I'm overseas, but I'm going to be watching them. I believe they're on the 30th of July and the 31st. So I'm recording this actually prior to the debate happening, but I'll see if I can upload it before the debates start too, so everybody can have a listen. And the final thing I say, when you see those candidates on the stage, always pray for them. Put protection around them. Pray that they see the truth, they see the light, and that the best person for the country come through, to the surface, and that be the nominee. Because we need to focus on who is going to be, the best nominee for our country to continue to move America in a better direction, to dismantle structural racism, to deal with the immigration issues and the environmental issues. There is so much going on, and we have a great opportunity to be the people that we say we are. I said I was almost done, but final thing Spirit is wanting me to say, they're saying to all the Americans who may be listening, do remember that we are a young country. So there are other countries around the world, they've gone through what we're currently going through now. Our democracy is shifting and changing. It doesn't mean that our democracy is over, but it is shifting and changing. And we're going to have to confront our wounds of slavery and oppression. We're going to have to confront our wounds of mass genocide and Trail of Tears. We're going to have to confront the Japanese internment camps, and now, unfortunately, putting those little babies at the border in cages too. We will have to answer for that spiritually. We will have to answer for that. And not just spiritually, we may also have to answer for that legally. So, we as American people, we can shift this, we can change this. Um, Many of the Democratic candidates that are running, their hearts really are in the right place. I do see with Mayor Pete, his genuinely is, he is very, very sincere. Spirit just says that he has to really deal with listening. He has to listen, not just give the appearance of listening, but listen, and also listen to people who say things that challenge him, that potentially upset him, maybe even embarrass him, because sometimes it's by hearing differing points of view that you learn and you grow. And sometimes a person may give you a criticism not in a way that you like, but if you take that criticism, you will grow and evolve. So he has to be able to do that. He has to be able to humble himself. And if he does, he can really make a difference and change. But Spirit is saying, the jury's still out on how much he will follow through and do that. So I will be coming back with more videos. We'll be looking at Joe Biden. We'll be looking at Kamala Harris. Those are the other two that are stepping through that Spirit says to take a look at as well. So always remember to live your light, live your bliss, love yourself. I hope you're having a wonderful summer. And don't give up and don't lose hope. We're at a turning point in this country. We're in a spiritual awakening. And often it looks and gets worse before it gets better. But that always happens in times of great change, because it brings up the fear, the joy, the love, everything in between that we need in order to push forward to get to where we need to be. So, love you guys and have a wonderful week. Take care.